Welcome back to Next Gen Console Watch, our show following all the news and rumors on the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. I'm Damon Hadfield, and as always, I'm joined by Ryan McCaffrey, host of IGN's Xbox podcast, Podcast Unlocked.
What's happening, Damon?
Just recording a show about PS5 and Xbox Series X. And Jonathan Dornbush, host of IGN's PlayStation podcast, Podcast Beyond.
Beyond, is that what we're doing? I should have checked
That's
in before we recorded. Cool.
That's what we're doing. Well, fret not. I've got a whole show planned out, a bunch of really hard-hitting, serious questions to ask both of you. I'm going to pull no punches. As everyone is aware, Gamescom is upon us. After taking a few years off for an in-person event, Gamescom is back in-person in Cologne, Germany next week. You're going to be able to catch all the game announcements on IGN. Important information here. Gamescom runs August 23rd to the 28th. You can watch our coverage on all of IGN's platforms. It includes Jeff Keighley's opening night live on August 23rd, which will be followed by IGN's post-show coverage, where we'll be breaking down all the big games that were announced. And then IGN Live at Gamescom runs August 24th through the 26th. We're going to get inside looks at upcoming games, interviews with developers, exclusive looks at all your favorite, most anticipated games on the horizon. So lots to look forward to, and it's about that time for a prediction show. Here's some predictions, as well as some things that we know have been confirmed for Gamescom. Jonathan, any idea why PlayStation might be sitting out the show this year?
I think PlayStation has been very selective about where it goes to showcases, especially in this, pandemic era. Once they backed out of E3, even beforehand, they've been very much on their own kind of beat and pace when it comes to revealing games, whether through their own showcases or PlayStation State of Plays. And we know what they're up to this fall. We've got The Last of Us Part 1 a week after Gamescom, and then God of War Ragnarok on November 8th. And they probably think they can just do those whenever they kind of want to show them off. So I think they probably just wanted to keep the focus on that for now. And then, I'd still love a fall showcase from them. But if we get anything else, they'll probably do it on their own terms.
Well, there will certainly be some, third-party games that you'll be able to play on your PlayStation 5 at Gamescom. And one of them is Hogwarts Legacy. This is a game that was recently delayed until February next year out of this year's holiday season. Jonathan, what's next to show on Hogwarts Legacy? Have we actually gotten a full gameplay demo on this one yet?
We did. We got, I believe it was billed as a state of play around Hogwarts Legacy. And so we know that PlayStation's kind of handling a bit of the marketing here. So in a sense, this is one of the things PlayStation sort of has there, but of course it's multi-platform. We got that, I think, 10 or 15 minute showcase of gameplay a few months back, but it's been relatively quiet other than a GIF here or there of things about it. Mm-hmm. I think the things people want to know, we saw common rooms and we saw some of the story level stuff. I think people want to see kind of what the flow of gameplay is going to be like, or what it's going to be like to live in Hogwarts while you're experiencing the game. So I think people definitely want a deeper look at this game before we get there, and I imagine this one's going to be one of the bigger games there for a lot of people.
Yeah, I think for sure. And then another big game that is confirmed, actually one of my most anticipated games that's still coming this year, is Callisto Protocol.
Yeah.
It's a game we got our first real good look at summer, during our Summer of Gaming event back in June. Jeff Keighley is confirmed to have this one on opening night live. I don't know. We actually did get a really extensive gameplay demo at this a couple months ago. Ryan, what do you think we might be seeing? What else is there to show to get people on board with this spiritual successor to Dead Space?
Yeah, you're right, Damon. In fact, you're reminding me that Glenn Schofield and Callisto Protocol got like way more stage time on Summer Game Fest with Jeff Keighley than anything else. And justifiably so. It's a big game, the return to survival horror for Glenn, who co-created Dead Space. And I guess maybe you show the opening minutes of the game. Maybe you've got a nice sort of cinematic cutscene trailer of some kind. But you're right. We did get a pretty meaty gameplay demo already. Maybe you show off a boss fight if it has traditional boss fights of some kind. I'm not sure. But I'm not going to complain about seeing more Callisto Protocol. Although I do urge you to be cautious in your wording there, Damon. You said very confidently that game's still coming out this year. Games have been dropping almost every day, left and right. Just you cross those fingers and toes when you say still coming out this year.
Yeah, sure. I'll knock on wood for that one. That one is currently scheduled for December, so it's barely making the cut for a 2022 release in the first place. Ryan, we're going to get another look at High on Life next week at Gamescom. Yeah. Remind us what this one is. We saw this at an Xbox showcase earlier this year.
Yeah, this was one of my most anticipated games, my most pleasant surprises out of Xbox's 90-minute game showcase from earlier this year. And yeah, it's Justin Roiland, the co-creator of Rick and Morty and Solar Opposites, making a comedic first-person shooter with a very, Roiland-esque art style. If you've seen either of those shows, this game is going to look inherently familiar. You've got crazy talking guns. You've got goofy enemies. I don't know. There's something about this. It just looks fresh and new to me. And the idea of a comedy first-person shooter is not something that's really been done much at all, let alone done well in quite some time. I mean, we get comedies here or there from the Tim Schafers of the world, and we've got Monkey Island coming back, which in fact is going to be at Opening Night Live, Damon, although not a subject for this show since it's PC and Switch only, but that one's very near and dear to my heart. But Trover Saves the Universe was really funny. That was Squanch, which is the development studio that Justin Roiland started that is making High on Life. They did a great job on Trover, and I'm just really looking forward to this one. This is an Xbox exclusive out this fall, knock on wood, and we know we're getting that gameplay demo of it. So I really want to see more of this and what it's actually like to kind of play through a mission on.
Another couple confirmations are Sonic Frontiers and then Goat Simulator 3. Another one, Ubisoft is confirmed to be attending. I don't think it's actually confirmed, what it might be showing. Of course, Ubisoft is finally releasing Skull and Bones this fall. Jonathan, anything else that you think Ubisoft might have up its sleeve, in spite of the fact that Ubisoft has its own showcase coming next month?
Yeah, that's the really interesting angle to this, is that we're going to see them kind of take their own stage just a couple weeks after. So I wouldn't be shocked if it is only really focused on games we already know about. I think Skull and Bones is a great candidate there. Obviously, they did a big gameplay showcase when it first came out, but it's definitely a game that I think you've seen enough skepticism around just because of how long a tail of development it had, how sort of like public it was, up for debate whether that game was ever going to come out. I think showing that off again here is probably a good idea to give people another taste of a mission or something specific about the game, maybe high level gameplay to a certain extent. Another thing that may be there, and again, it's not for this show necessarily, but Mario and Rabbids, that comes out in October as well. And so that could very easily be part of the Ubisoft showing there. But I think any really big reveals for them are probably going to wait for their own Ubisoft Forward event.
Okay, beyond the confirmed games, Ryan, with Xbox actually being in attendance this year, any sort of predictions from you or games that you would hope to see?
Well, they're doing a 6-hour live stream, which I presume will be kind of Nintendo Treehouse style. And they've given out a partial list of games that will be at that, including High on Life, including Pentiment, which is the Josh Sawyer sort of narrative adventure from Obsidian. That's one I feel like is not getting talked about a lot as of yet. So leaving the confirmed list and the stuff that's not on it, the stuff I'm hoping to see, number one would be the sequel to the game behind me, Alan Wake 2. I would love to see something on that. I know it's not exclusive to Xbox. It's a multi-platform game, but I would be delighted to see a little more of Alan Wake 2. That is expected in 2023. I'm not super optimistic that's going to happen, but I'll give you a few others, Damon, that I am more optimistic that we might see something from at Gamescom next week from on the Xbox broadcast. And I'll start with the most not only high profile one, but also the one everybody's just rooting for. They've got the sentimental vote as well as just the raw talent behind them that inspires the confidence. And that's Stalker 2. The most interesting element of Xbox's extended showcase that they did a few days after their summer showcase was this really moving sort of development diary of sorts that profiled the development team in Ukraine that had been so directly and incredibly affected in such a horrible way by the war on Ukraine by Russia. And there were members of that development team that signed up to go fight to defend their country. And so we know that game is just 2023 at this point. I'm hoping that maybe this event, Gamescom, is one of the biggest stages in the world. It is Europe's E3, as it were. It always has been. And so I'm hoping maybe, given all of that perhaps we'll get a fresh look at Stalker 2 to see how it's been coming along since the turmoil that has literally come to the development team's doorstep. So that's one I'm really rooting to see. But if we don't see it, obviously it's understandable, and we'll see it when we see it. But I'd also like to bring up a game that we haven't seen anything really concrete from yet, but big name. It was in the Xbox showcase, Arc 2. All we have is the Vin Diesel trailer to go off of there. So perhaps Gamescom is a time to show a little bit more from that. And then I would say there's two more on my list that also both have the European ties, which I'm thinking, maybe a little home field advantage they show on their home turf. Number one is Everwild, which is from Rare. It's been shown a couple of times, but not in a while. It's been kind of floating out there for a while, but quiet for some time. And just maybe Gamescom could be the time where we see what's been going on with Everwild. A lot of potential there. And then finally, Damon, I would say a game that I think is going to be near and dear to both your heart and mine, Somerville, which is an Inside/Limbo-esque game from, not coincidentally, some former development team members that made Limbo and Inside. And Somerville, just, it's still on the 2022 list. We haven't seen or heard anything concrete beyond that as far as dates, months, anything. But if that thing's still going to make 2022, Gamescom, again, being a European developer, Gamescom is probably the best and biggest venue for them to say something about that 2022 release if it's happening.
Yeah, and there's another one that was affected by the war in Ukraine, Replaced. Another developer that was affected by the war and had to delay their game to 2023. That's another one that looks very, very cool.
Agreed.
But no Perfect Dark, huh? Maybe someday.
Maybe someday. Like the time. Yeah,
maybe someday I'll get to see Perfect Dark. Jonathan, anything else from you, even though PlayStation isn't attending, any other predictions or just games you'd hope to see?
Yeah, it's a weird one. I think some of the biggest third-party stuff that we know PlayStation players are excited for, like Callisto and like Hogwarts, we know are going to be there. So that's good news, and less good news for me to make predictions about. But sort of the only other thing that I could think of is potentially some form of indies. PlayStation has been trying to put an increased focus on, it seems, this generation about indie coverage and spotlighting, and even if they're not there, letting some of those indies that we know are coming, whether it's a Little Devil Inside or a Season, which also got delayed. A game like A Little Devil Inside is, I believe, still set for this year technically. I could be mistaken there, but I think it might still be set for this year. And so those are games that, especially if we don't know if or when a PlayStation showcase is coming, could deserve a spotlight here. And I'm sure is something that those games would love to have that stage. I think, especially looking back at Opening Night Live and other things that we've seen in past years, some of those indies getting a great spotlight, no matter what console they're on, is a really great opportunity for a show like this to do. So I'd love to see games like that. I'm not, similar to Ryan, I'm not expecting the moon or anything. I'm not shooting for the stars here, but I think there could be potentially some really cool smaller games on the horizon that would be worth spotlighting here.
Yeah, Jonathan, would you agree that with Stray out now and everybody really, really, happy with that game, PS5 is kind of lacking an upcoming indie darling, I think, that everyone's sort of looking forward to. It seems like Stray was that for a long time, but now it's out.
Yeah. Stray took so much of the conversation around. I think just this week we got Rollerdrome, which is really phenomenal. It's really worth playing. If you haven't played it, I definitely recommend it. But yeah, Season was going to be the next upcoming one. That was going to kind of be the fall one, but they had to push it out of the way, unfortunately. We are getting the port of Tunic, which I know Ryan has praised quite a bit here, so that'll be
9 out of 10, IGN.com.
Yeah. But I think, honestly, Season or Little Devil Inside could kind of be that next one. Little Devil Inside, we've gotten it a few state of plays, and I think people really like what they see of it, but then it just goes for long gaps of not hearing about it. So if that game is coming out this year or next year, getting a check-in with that game, I think, would really be exciting for a lot of PlayStation players.
Sure. Agreed. Okay, well, our Gamescom coverage kicks off next Tuesday, August 23rd. You can catch it all wherever you like to get your IGN. We have the results of last episode's poll. We wanted to know, which franchise would you most like to see resurrected on a next-gen console? And the winning result was, Jonathan, Twisted Metal. A series that's been dormant, I think, for 10 years. Is that right? The last one was like 2012-ish.
That sounds about right. But, we're on the cusp of a comeback with a Peacock TV series.
Yes.
With actually a lot of talent behind it. It's both in the writer's room and on screen. I think there's a lot of big names involved for that show. And I think the expectation has kind of been, well, that must mean they're doing a game too, right, because it seems such a random one to have a show for at this point in the PlayStation ecosystem. So people may get their wish sooner than later.
Yeah, I think a lot of people will be hoping for a new Twisted Metal game. Like The Last of Us is getting a show, but there are still, Last of Us games actively being released now. Where is Twisted Metal? It does seem like a strange fit for a TV show with no new game on the horizon.
Yeah.
Then, unfortunately, Ryan, the losing result from the poll was Fusion Frenzy. Just not a lot of love.
Miranda Sanchez will be very sad. She's she does podcast Unlocked with me every week, and that is one of her nearest and dearest favorite games. So yeah, she'll be a little sad to hear that.
And then we've got a poll for you to vote on for next episode. What game are you most excited to see at Gamescom next week? Hogwarts Legacy, Sonic Frontiers, Goat Simulator 3. Make sure to vote at IGN.com, and we'll share the results with you next week. And that's going to do it for this edition of Next Gen Console Watch. Thank you to both Ryan and Jonathan. Thank you to Alan working behind the scenes to make this episode possible. My name is Damon. We'll be back we'll be back next week, but I don't know the exact time because we're shooting and publishing things at a different time because of Gamescom. But in any case, we'll be back next week with, I think, some updates on big games that were announced at Gamescom. Until then, everybody take care.